The Washington State Nonprofit Conference is an incredible opportunity to connect with experts and discover resources and strategies to drive positive change in your organization. Ready for action? Register today at nonprofitwide.org.
This is Big Poppy, host of Jazz from the Cabinets. Join me each week for a listening tour of the first century of jazz, an eclectic mix of Dixieland, big band, cool jazz, bebop, contemporary jazz, world jazz, all jazz in all forms. That's Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy on Rainier Avenue Radio, streaming worldwide on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Hey, Seattle, here are some storage tips to love food, stop waste. Onions make potatoes sprout faster. Keep onions away from potatoes. Ripe bananas give off a gas that makes the fruit around them ripen faster. Store bananas away from other fruits. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil-Am Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil-Am Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
A new law is helping people save more money on prescription drug costs. You may also be able to save with Medicare's Extra Help program. Your premium cost can be zero and your out-of-pocket expenses are low. Who should apply? Single individuals earning less than $23,000 a year or married couples earning less than $31,000 a year. Even if you don't think you qualify, you should still check out this program. Visit ssa.gov/extrahelp. Medicare costs are covered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
All right, Exodus, movement of the people. Bob Marley. He always kicks off the show. I'm Osvita Maraire, and this is Seattle Sports Weekly. And just glad to be back with y'all. And thanks for listening. And man, you know, you would think, right? We'll start with the low-hanging fruit with the weather. I'm one of those people. If it's sunny outside and there's sun, I feel a little bit more glow. That's just how that is. I know you're not supposed to get up too high and too low, but you cannot tell me, unless you live in Southern California, IA, or Florida, that when you see the sun in this beautiful Emerald City, that it just kind of brightens the day, brightens your mood. It might not. For me, it does. Again, so welcome again, as I said, Seattle Sports Weekly. A lot of stuff to go over, and Earth Day Deserves More Than a Day returns to Rainier Avenue Radio next week, Monday to Friday, featuring environmental justice themed broadcasts from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we're going to circle back. I'll probably rotate that a couple more times to remind you of Earth Day. Speaking of the sun, see what I did there? Oh, actually what Dean Money did, but sun, earth, yeah, exactly, environment. All right. Oh, and of course, events will preempt Seattle Sports Weekly, which actually it's NFL draft week anyway. So there you go. That's the most important thing, that being Earth Day, not that Seattle Sports Weekly was preempted. All right, a lot to go over, as I said, but I'm going to start with the interview I had with Walter Jones. Just an honor to have this interview with him, you know, arguably one of the best Seahawk legends. Some people say he's greatest Seahawk ever. The NFL says, well, you know what, Walter, you are one of the best NFL players to ever play. So he is in the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to play that video. All right. It is such an honor to have the great Walter Jones. We've had Jim Zorn on here, and I'll say it again. I mean, I'm 60 plus, but again, as a Seahawk fan, this is such a great honor. Mr. Walter Jones, can I call you Walter? And thank
Oh,
you.
you sure can. You sure can.
Absolutely. And the reason I had to say Walter and Mr. was 7-time All Pro selection. NFL 2000 All Decade Team. I know I have to bring this up because I know you don't want to talk about yourself, but 13 seasons in the NFL. Born in Alabama, played some junior college and played at Florida State. And two more accolades for you. I can't let this go. 180 games, and the Seahawks attempted 5,500 passes with you on the field. You gave up a total of 23 quarterback sacks, nine. You were just penalized 9 times for holding, and then 3 fumble recoveries. Uh you know those things. When I say those things, Hall of Fame, what comes to mind years afterwards?
I just look at it as I did it the right way. I think anybody that played this game, you understand that people are watching you. You have to find ways to motivate yourself. And I think for me personally, I tell people all the time that I came in the league at a perfect time where left tackle was the premier position. I had some great guys to watch. Anthony Munoz was probably my first offensive lineman that I ever watched and got and fell in love with being an offensive lineman. But you got to look at Jonathan Ogden. You got to look at Willie Roaf. You got to look at I don't want to miss no guy's name because they'll get mad. But Orlando Pace, all those guys was like they was the great at that position. So my coaches came to me and said, watch those guys. So for me, even though you don't know those guys personally, but you have a competitive drive in you where you're saying, I want to be just like them. This guy didn't give up a sack this game, or this guy haven't gave. So for me, I had to find those type of motivation. So now that I'm done playing ball, now you can boast and brag about the things you've done it because they're on paper. Sometimes you get kids that start boasting way before their career is over. So for me personally, I look at it as that I'm a person that someone can watch and say, okay, if I want to play the game, this is the person that you should watch. And I try my best to do it the right way. So when I hear those accolades, it just tell me that I did it the right way.
And you did. There's no doubt about that. But where Alabama, right? Was there something there in the community about doing things the right way on and off the field? Where did that start, I should ask?
I have to say my mom. I think my mom came from a single mom with 8 kids. So for me personally, just seeing her drive and things that she had to do to make sure that we had everything. I said in my Hall of Fame speech, I said we didn't have a lot, but my mom made sure that we had everything we needed. And for that standpoint, if you're gonna do something, do it the right way. My mom had always taught me if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna work, or you're gonna do anything, if you're gonna start playing on a football team or any team you don't do that and then stop. You finish it out. You see it through. So for that, I think I got a lot of that from my mom, where she was kind of instilled that in you. If you're gonna do something, do it at your best ability and try to be great at it. And so that's where I wanted to do it. And I knew me coming from a very small rural town that I was the person that everybody looked up to. So every time you step out the door, for me, that's not hard for me to present myself in a way. My mom has always taught me, don't go out here and act a fool. Don't go out here and mess up this last name. My mom have told me that too, though. So for me personally, those are the things that kind of helped me get through. And then coming to Seattle was great for me too, because then I didn't have to worry about tickets every week. I could come up here and focus. I didn't know nothing about Seattle until I got drafted by Seattle. So for me, it was easy for me to come here and just literally focus on football. So I would say I got a lot of that from my mom.
Yeah, and then you played at Holmes Community College for 2 seasons, and Mississippi Junior College Player of the Year. You go to Florida State, and your first year you sit out. Speaking of doing the right things, can you talk about what was that like for you, and just continue this humility and doing things right? Because then the next year you obviously had a breakout and moved on.
Yeah, it was fine. I think for me personally, it was never. I looked at when I went to JUCO was because I didn't start playing football until I was a freshman in high school. So I didn't have the grades to go right out of high school at Florida State, and Florida State did a great job of showing that they was interested in me throughout this whole process of trying to graduate on time and all that. So when I got to Florida State, it was one of those things back then where that, 1 through 5 offensive linemen, all those guys was 5-star guys. And so when I got to Florida State, they had 2 guys that was waiting for their time to start. So for me personally, my coach just said, you just got to wait your turn. You're going to be on the field, but these guys have sat here and waited for their moment. So I understood. And then for me personally, it gave me an opportunity to learn how to be a college at a top tier school and how to manage that and stuff. So for me, I was getting my best work at practice because you're going to, like I say, every position, every 1 through 5 was good. So you got 5 defensive ends. All those guys are 5-star athletes and they just waiting their turn. They waiting their moment. So for me, I was getting all that practice, all that training, and it still wasn't playing. And so for me, I enjoyed it because I wanted to be at Florida State. It gave me an opportunity to be around a lot of great guys that have that are in your same boat. They want to make it to the next level, but still, again, you're part of something great. And for me now, I can also say that, when I tell people I'm from Florida State, I went to Florida State. I say that with Viction because I really, really enjoyed my time there at Florida State. And now, like, that's why I'm here down in Florida right now, building my home here in Florida at Tallahassee, Macon,
Okay.
Tallahassee, my all-season home. So kind of want put my roots. I've been with Seattle for so long. Not saying I'm never gonna leave Seattle during the season. I'll probably still be around Seattle during the season because I do work there. So I would never not ever not be in Seattle. So, but for me now, I'm looking forward to being a part of the Seminoles family and stuff. So for me, this stuff is fun for me to be able to say that I played at Florida State and I played for the Seattle Seahawks.
Bobby Bowden, did he really say it ain't my job to stop my offense? That's your job. One of my favorite jokes. I got, I remember when I was just getting the broadcasting and they said, "Hey, Bobby, why are you running up the score?" And he said, "It ain't my job to stop my offense." Just real quickly, because the next year you started all 11 games for the Seminoles, Sugar Bowl, and
hmm
I just 1 sack. What was that like? Bobby Bowden, and obviously then that decision you made after your junior year to go to the NFL.
You know what? I had to take all my hat off to him because I can remember when he came and visit my mom and sat down. You know how that is, man. You go into these coaches goes into these small rural places and they come in and feel like home. And Bobby Bowden is he's from Alabama, so he understands the hospitality of that. But for me, I think the one thing where I realized that this guy know what he's doing. I can remember my first year there. I was walking to practice. Sometimes you get homesick. You're thinking to yourself like, man, I don't know nobody here. I don't get a chance to see my family. And I don't know if he knew because I didn't say nothing to nobody. He walked up to me while I was walking out to practice, asked how I was doing. And think about it, you got 7 other brothers and sisters, and he coming up to you asking you how your family doing. I'm talking about he didn't name off all my brothers and sisters to me, asking me how they're doing. So at that moment, I said, man, I'm glad I'm playing for that guy. And then for me, I never told this story. Like people don't know this, but I'm assuming scouts know it. But when I did start my next year, I wasn't starting. I would play. They was like, "We're gonna get you on the field." So basically, I was rotating with 3 tackles. So their tackles go out and start, play 2 series, and I go in and take over the left tackle, play a series. Then the next series, I take over the right tackle. So that's what I did my whole entire season at Florida State. So for me, it was a 3 rotation starting tackles when I was there. And for me, coming out for the draft, that was just an opportunity for me. I had because I never thought about it. I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna be here for 2 years. I get an opportunity to maybe hopefully I win a chip. And one day I was walking into the locker room and the guys was looking at a pre-draft paper, and basically they had every position, what they draft rating was. And so when I walked in the locker room, these guys, I think it was some safeties or something, the cornerbacks. And when I walked in the locker room, they were like, "Hey, Walt, man, let's see what they got you ranked as." And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, this is my first year ever playing, so I don't know way that I'm ranked at something. And when they told me, they was like, "Well, you're number 2 behind Orlando Pace." And at that point, that's kind of when it kind of really hit me that, okay, cool, that means that somebody see me and recognize my talent. And it wasn't a hard decision for me because no matter where I would have won the draft, I felt like I'm gonna have more money than I ever had in my life. So I knew that was going to change my life and change my family life too. So I said, sometimes when that opportunity knock, you got to go through the door. And I said, this is my opportunity. I can't say what next year's going to be like, but I feel like this is my time to put my feet through the doors and see what this NFL is about.
Well, it must have been your time. We all know that. Then, boom.
Yeah.
So what's that like? So the Seattle Seahawks, Walter. So you say I'm gonna go into the draft. Leading up to it, I mean, what do you? I mean, you work out? Do you talk to scouts? I mean, that's got to be nerve-wracking, isn't it?
It was a fun. Like I think for me personally, it gave me an opportunity to feel that kind of somebody wants you. Because when I went to high school and got through high school, I was more like putting myself out there and let people know I'm out here. I probably didn't have the grades. I probably was on the radar. But then once you get ready for the draft, you're on the radar. You're getting checked out by everybody. So for me, it was pretty cool for me to get a chance to meet all these other players. I went on trips to see other schools. And like I say, honestly, when I was getting drafted, I went out to Oakland. And Oakland, they laid out the red tape, and it was amazing. I met every coach, every position, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to Oakland. I'm thinking I'm going to Oakland. Then coming from a rural town, I think back then it was a song by I want to say maybe LL Cool J. I'm going back to Cali. So I
Yeah.
was like singing it to my sisters and brother, like I'm going to Cali, because back then those are the things you see on TV, like, oh, I'm going to go to Hollywood. I'm going to see all this stuff I would probably never see in my life. And then when I was leaving Oakland, my agent called me and asked me, he said, hey, man, you need to go to Seattle. They want to see you in Seattle. I said, oh, cool. So I went out to Seattle, and it was so crazy. There wasn't nobody there. Only person there was Howard Mudd. He was the offensive line coach.
Right,
When
right.
nobody there, nobody was there. The lights was off. Everybody was out of the building. It was just me and him. He took me to the office, and he asked me like one or two questions about something I did on a play and said, what was you doing on this? What was you thinking on this? How did y'all do it? And I told him, went through that, and that was it. He didn't say, most teams, the Rams were straight up. I went to visit the Rams, and the Rams were straight up to me. They said, "Hey, if Orlando Pace wasn't in the draft, you'll be our next pick." So it's like, okay, cool. That's just one team. So that's 31 more teams, or 30, whatever, there to pick me up. So, and when I left there, my agent called me. He said, "How did you feel about that?" I said, "I don't know, man." I said, "Well, nobody there. He just asked me one or two plays, showed me the locker room, showed me the weight room, and that was it." And I was thinking to myself, I'm not, and then especially they had a number 3 pick. So I'm thinking like, okay, they picked Sean Springs. So, okay, cool. I'm going to one of these teams, Detroit. I think it was Detroit or Tampa or somebody like that. I'm like, okay, cool. But then after they made the 5th pick, I want to say it was maybe, who was that? I want to say probably Baltimore, maybe it was. I don't know. But then that was a trade. Seattle has made a trade with Tampa Bay, blah, 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 blah. And boom, that's when I got the phone call. Hey, Walter, we're going to pick you here in this next draft. And I was kind of trying to hold it together. Then I said it to my family. Then everybody just started crying, and it was a very emotional moment for my mom. We had
Mhm.
so much fun. So for me personally, my mom still to this day, bring up those moments and stuff like that. So for me to to be able to do something that you love, and now you have an opportunity to change a lot of people's life, especially your family life and stuff. So for me, the NFL had been nothing but nice to me.
Well, it's okay. They draft you. We got the family bonding and the love. Now you got to go to work, right? What was that like in terms of they're practicing Chini?
Yeah, practice and cheating.
Yeah, Chini.
First, like the crazy thing about it, though, you go out here for like as soon as you get drafted, you got to get on the plane and they fly you out to Seattle for a media, tour and stuff like that. They bring you in, they put you in the nicest hotels, they give you the swag bag, and it's like they showing you the red carpet. And then once you leave and you come back the next week, they got you a coach and you staying at the La Quinta. So then you get that point. For me personally, it was more like when I got there, the coach would say, "Hey, you're all left tackle. You're going to figure this out, or you won't figure it out." So, and I feel like I was in that. I just came in that right moment where, Hazen was still there. You have to show your respect by what you do on the football field, and I think for me personally, that's what you want to. You want those guys to believe that, hey, if you're in that fire, this guy going to go in that fire with you. So for me, it was just trying to learn. I think that the hardest part for me was probably doing the other stuff outside of football. Being an adult. You get all this money, you get a home, you do all this, and you never had to pay bills. So think about that. So now you got to learn this big playbook. Then you still have to do adult things. I got to go over here to sign this contract for this house. I got to go set up my electric. I got to do all this stuff. But you think in college they take care of everything. So all you got to do is show up. They send you itinerary, and you show up where I need to be, where I need to go, all that. Then all of a sudden you're in the league, and now you're playing with top guys you see. My first my first year in the huddle, I was in the huddle with Warren Moon, and I'm sitting there trying my best not to think like, man, I'm in the huddle with Warren Moon. So for me, that was pretty cool. And always when you do those things, you always say to yourself, man, I belong. So that was the moment when I felt like, okay, I do belong. I'm literally starting with some of these guys that been playing in the game for 4 or 5 years. They are seasoned vets, and now you got this young kid that's coming in, that's the high draft pick, and now you got to go out here and prove your worth. And for me, I think I had some great guys like Cortez Kennedy, was a great mentor to me to show me how to do it outside of the game of football, how to make everybody from not just in the locker room, people that's on the second floor, the third floor, to feel like they're a part of the team. So for me, it was fun. Like I think I think in that moment, you're gonna make it or you're not make it. And I think for us, we wants to be in tough situations to figure things out.
You talked about Howard Mudd, the offensive line coach. Just can you tell us how that and obviously Mike Holmgren had the most amazing
Hmm.
compliment. He said you're the greatest offensive player he's ever coached. You talked about some of the great Seahawk offensive players, but what was that relationship with Howard Mudd? How important was that? And then how does that connect with the I don't know the offensive coordinators and then the head coach?
For me personally, I think with Howard Mudd, I think for me, I was blessed to go to a coach that understood my talent and what I could be good at. So he let me be me, in a way of, okay, you can do this different than anybody else will. So let's do this, let's do this. This is what you're good at. So get great at that. So for me, I think, and he was a coach that listened to you too. A lot of the time, you don't get coaches. It's their way or the highway. And Howard Mudd didn't do that. He was just like, "Hey, what are you thinking? How you think you would have blocked him on this play?" And I tell him, he's like, "Okay, cool, we'll do that." So for me, I think he let me become a professional, where I have to learn the game or understand how people attack you and stuff like that. It was more of you learning the game. Okay, not thinking about what this guy going to do to you in the first and second quarter, what this guy going to do to you in the third and fourth quarter. You got to be thinking about the second, third move. So for me, that's how I went through the game, to process the game in a live game. I'm not thinking about what he did in the first quarter. I'm saying what he's going to do to me in the fourth quarter when I'm tired. I'm not really. Sometimes my focus might go off. So for me, that's the way I approach the game all the time. If he gave me a spin move in the first quarter, okay, what are you going to do in the fourth quarter? He might give me a spin move, then he might give me a fake spin move. And most of the time, I'm pretty on it because I know that's how defensive guys. You always put myself around defensive guys because you can be around your alignment, but you're not learning the game through your alignment. You learn the game by being around defensive guys and see how they move. What are they thinking about when they see you in practice, or guys are coming up to you, hey, Walt, man, how did you beat me on that move right there? And I said, you did this, you did that. So for me, that kind of stuff was fun for me to go out there and compete and be good and still be able to shut stuff down that was out there. Because that defense can do things to you to make you look like you don't know how to play football. So for me, that was my playing checkers or chess, whatever they call it, where I was trying to figure out what is going to be their third and fourth move.
Your relationship with the fan base. You talked a little bit about. I haven't heard a player quite put it so eloquently. You talked about the fan base, the Kingdom, Husky Stadium. What was that relationship like? And you saw it blossom and then carry on the 2005 NFC Championship game because you guys were, I think, the number one seed and you hosted. What was just your relationship with the fan base?
I think it's amazing, man. I think that the crazy thing about it, I think they are probably the greatest fans in the league, but still, again, I realized, especially when we started getting good playing ball, they understood the game. They understood they were the 12th. They knew that they could affect the game with the way they cheer and they love their players too. I get it. A lot of people always tell you, don't fall in love with the players, fall in love with the team because players don't stay. And so for me, I don't have to say that. They never had to say, well, Walt went somewhere else. So that's a blessing to me that I was able to play my entire career with one team and get to know the city. I call Seattle my home, and these fans are amazing. It wouldn't be nothing if it wasn't for the fans, because those are the ones that's filling up the seats to come and see you play. So you want to put on a show every time you go out there. But still, again, when you meet these fans out in the public, they're very nice, they're very respectful. And still, again, I tell people they're smart fans because they know when to yell and when not to yell. So if we out there, we on a tough drive, they know how to stay quiet for us, but then they know, okay, it's third and 5. Okay, let's get riled up. And they know that stuff. So for me, I think that's the cool thing, that they are intertwined into the game and what's going on. And for me, you know, playing offensive line, I have a lot of people come up to me and say, "Hey, Walt, my dad comes to the game just to watch you." So for me, I felt like, okay, I got to go ahead and put on a good show because the fans are coming to see me. Now you're getting people to watch offensive linemen. People don't watch offensive line most of the time, but for you to go out there and perform at a rate that people want to watch you play, that's a pretty cool experience. So every time you go on the field, especially in front of the 12s, you want to put on a good show for those people.
How were you all able to overcome the 2000 and the loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl? Or does it
I don't even
still
know if we I don't know if we even over it though. I think it's just you
move
just
on?
deal with it. I think a lot of times it's just one of those things, you hate it. I felt like we was the better team that day, but the quote does say any given Sunday, anything can happen. And the ref then came out and said some things and stuff, but that's not gonna get us a ring by saying that. It's just one of those days where we didn't play as good as we should have played, even though a lot of times, like they always say, the good teams overcome anything that happened in any game. And I felt like we just didn't overcome whatever that was. It was if it was bad calls or we couldn't get in the end zone. So we was the number one offense. So I felt like we could do whatever we wanted to when we wanted to. And that Sunday it didn't happen. And that's the way you have to do it. And it's kind of bittersweet that the first year they won it, but I said, man, it probably wasn't our time to win it at that time. It felt like once they went back the next time, it was the time for the Seahawks to bring a Super Bowl home. So it's kind of like cool for me because that was the same year I got into the Hall of Fame. So it worked out for me. But like I always tell people, it's kind of bittersweet because we was the first team to get there and we didn't finish it, and they was able to finish it. So you have to take your hat off to them what they was able to do.
Yeah, and I think you were captain, right, of the Super Bowl in
Hmm.
MetLife. What was the Hall of Fame call, or how did they send? Now they're knocking. I don't know. ESPN shows them knocking. I don't know what
Yeah.
did they send you? Letters, telegram? What they do back? I'm not trying to date you, but what they do back in the day to notify you?
Oh, they just call you. I had what happened was I didn't honestly being in the Hall of Fame was never something I was reaching for because I didn't know anything about the Hall of Fame at that time. And then, like I say, I really didn't think about it until Cortez Kennedy was at the Hall of Fame. In his speech, he was saying, "Hey, Walter Jones, you're next." And honestly, that's when it hit me like, man, I might have an opportunity to get into the Hall of Fame. So I was fine with that. And honestly, they called me after I retired. And and, at that time, you kind of say, okay, 5 years out. So I said, oh, 2015 will be the year that I'll be eligible to get to the Hall of Fame. But they called me and said, hey, Walt, you're eligible. You're in the top 15. I'm like, oh, why would I be in the top? Whatever. I said,
Right.
my next year is my first year. And they're like, no, no, no. We count your year that you was injured. I'm like, I wasn't planning on retiring at that time, but they count that as a waiting year. So it's literally 5 years. So that's a nice little trivia question for people to know that, hey, Walt got into the Hall of Fame in 4 years, not five. So
Thank you for that.
um, so for me, it was amazing. I think it's one of those things where you get that call and then you say it's something that you can't control. Everything got to be based on a vote and whatever that person says about you to get you woman call. But a lot of people say it wasn't hard, but still again, you think about it. I think a lot of times once you get that call, like they call you at that time, 'cause they didn't start the knock to the year after I got in, so they started doing the knock with the play like now they do with the former players that you to do it with the. So I think it give people a inside experience of how stressful it can get, how even if you're a first ballot, you don't get in for 4 or 5 years, you're in the Hall of Fame. So you can't look at it like that. Yeah, even though it does sound good saying first ballot, but still and again, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're going to get in. It's just a matter of when you're going to get in. So for me, I think it's pretty cool for people to get a chance to see the inside, the scratch. I think the coolest video I ever seen was the one with Steve Hutchins got in where his wife was filming. He was sitting there waiting on the knock, and then like everybody was quiet, and all of a sudden he heard that knock. See, I didn't get a chance to experience that, but
Right.
still and again, that knock, and you saw the anticipation of he was waiting on. Like you don't know what's going to happen when you knowing what that knocks mean because they're not knocking on your door to tell you you didn't make the Hall of Fame. So think about that in that moment that you're sitting there waiting on that knock and then you get that knock. So I think it's cool. And then for me personally, I never did follow the Hall of Fame, but now I see why I didn't. But now that I'm older, the guys that I play with are getting into the Hall of Fame now. So it makes me feel fun now that I know a guy that started in high school and now he's a Hall of Famer. Like I didn't think about that when I was a young kid, but now look at I think people when I Peyton Manning, I'm like, man, I remember Peyton when he was in high school. Like all these kids, these people came in through with me. You knew all these kids because they was going through the same process that you was going, being great in college and being great in the pros after retirement and getting Hall of Fame. So you think like, wow, this is pretty cool. Now you're able to hang out with guys that you played the game with and you have similar conversations.
And lastly, can you talk about the transition you made from pro football? I mean, you're around. There's so many things that you do that people don't know in the community because you like to do your stuff behind the scenes in Seattle and all can you just talk about your relationship off if pro career's done and what, you're giving back to Seattle? And I know you ain't gonna mention nothing, but that's
No, I think it's one of those things where a lot of that you don't. It's not about fanfare. You're trying to do things that you're blessed. You're able to do those things. You're able to give back to those things, and you have people that want to be a part of things that you're doing great in the community. You always want to give back because somebody gave to my family for me to eat sometimes. So for me, I just always want to give back. You want to help people out, not for the fanfare, just to do it. Say, okay, this is in my heart to do it. So for me, I'm always looking for things like that. I started a food bank thing where I was raising money for food because I knew as family, we ate at a lot of food banks. We had a lot of help from food banks. So that's literally where my heart is at, where you feed people, and a lot of time when you think of people being hungry, you're thinking they're out on the street and they this, but no, a lot of these people are working a full-time job and don't have enough money to buy food for their family. So I always wanted to do that. That's something that I'm very dear to it, of just giving back to the less fortunate people that really need help. And then, talking to young kids, I love to be mentored. I always tell the younger kids, like, hey, I'm here for you. I got it, but I'm not going to chase you for it. If you want it, you got to come to me. And so now that stuff, like I mentor so many guys, I like sit down and I talk to these guys and not trying to change what they do because I look at it, you're a professional, you've grown, you know how to do this. But if you just need some help to do this or read the defense or how to study, because I had to learn to do too, because I thought like just look at a couple of film snaps, okay, I can block in. But it was more to it than just doing that. So I tell a lot of young kids that just be able. So for me, I just like to give back, because I can't take it with me. If I leave this earth today, I can't take this knowledge with me, or I can't, so if you want it, you have to come to me and ask me for it. And I'm willing to give it to you and, whenever you want it. So just to kind of teach you how to take notes, how to read film, how to figure out how to get through practice, saying find those moments of when you can rest. And I think a lot of times people don't know that. They think, okay, I'm gonna chill. No, these are not okay. In this part of practice, you can rest. This is your time to get your breath. So, but you don't learn it so you be in it. So, but for me, just being a pillar for the community, always trying to give back, always trying to do it the right way. I tell people all the time, I say, like, sometimes people don't want that label. But I tell people all the time, everything I do, you meet somebody today and that person will know you forever. So if you go out here, and I always tell my friends, I said, I never want to do anything for you, or I meet some of your friends and then I do something stupid out there. And I don't want that pressure to be on you, or somebody's calling you and saying, hey man, what's going on with Walt? What happened with Walt? So I'm okay with trying to be the best version of myself every time I walk out the door, because I understand what's in store. And I know there's a lot of young kids that watches you and watches how you move. Even if those kids are not saying nothing to you, like I got some nieces and nephews that they want to be in it, they want to play sports, and they watch you and everything you do. If you're sitting around just talking, they always watching you. They watch how you move or how you interact with people. So you always have to understand that if you don't think you're being watched, you're always being watched. So for me, those are the things that I really enjoy doing when I come to Seattle or be a part of some stuff in the community. I love to just to meet those people and see their excitement that they can get a chance to talk to you. I think a lot of times people think that they can't get close to you or they can't touch you. So I just want people to feel like, hey, I was in those same chairs too. So you can touch me. I'm the same person as you. I know what it is to be hard times and all that stuff too. So for me, I always want to give back to those younger people, because you don't know which one you might change their trajectory on what they do in life.
generation. He is Walter Jones. Hall of Famer on the court, on the field, and I would definitely say off the field. Thank you so much for your time, Walter. Really appreciate you taking the time. All right, there we go. We're going to go on break, and we shall return. Again, that was the great NFL Hall of Famer, Seahawk legend Walter Jones.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not deep frying a turducken in a closed garage, I'm listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Sediment cleanup of the lower Duwamish River has begun. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the members of the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group, which includes King County, the City of Seattle, and Boeing, have begun sediment cleanup of the Lower Duwamish Waterfall Superfund site. This important environmental project will address sediment pollution and help restore the health of the Duwamish River. Starting on the waterway's upper reach, construction activities extend from the south 102nd Street Bridge down straight to the Duwamish Waterway Park. Over the next 3 years, in-water activities will occur from October to February, ending in February 2027. Visit ldwg.org to learn about the upper reach cleanup and sign up for email updates.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in. Phil Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
Do you want to reach out to the Vietnamese community in Seattle? Just advertise in Người Việt Tây Bắc, that is Northwest Vietnamese News, the longest running Vietnamese language newspaper in our region. Go to nvnorthwest.com.
Hey, Seattle, tune in to Lidline Sports every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
What up, yo? We are back. This is Pep, and the man that don't take no mess, Mr. O-P-I-S, Mr. Stevenson. What say you?
I hope you see the hat that I'm wearing right now. That's how mad I am.
I do. Man, you are angry.
I just want to make that be known.
Tune in to Lidline Sports every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Lidline Sports.
So I needed to check my kids' immunization records for their school. My doctor told me I could get them quickly online, but I couldn't figure out how. Thankfully, I could turn to Link to Care WA for help. With Link to Care WA, I was able to learn how to use online health portals, use telehealth to talk to my doctor virtually, and even apply for jobs online. I called their free hotline and got help from a real person. Call Link to Care WA at 866-757-1832 or visit linktocarewa.org.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at RainierAvenueRadio.world.
All right, we are back. Absolutely. And again, thank you so much to the great NFL Hall of Famer legend, Seahawk legend as well, Walter Jones. And when I got in this business, that's what I really like to do, to write, feature writing, and also the interviews with, people, the athletes, and actually people. That's the fun part of this job. You really, if you're able just to sit down and have a conversation. I watched a lot of the Larry King. Some of y'all, I don't know who Larry King is, but it's a great interviewer, and it's a lost art now in terms of our business and whatever our business is now, right? But it is the journalism, the art of interviewing. I think is something it's a privilege when somebody's able to gives you the time, and they're not only their time, but lets you, hey, here I am, ask away. And again, it's always just amazing to humbling when athletes, and I think people even do that as well. So speaking of humbling and humility and interviews and those things, it just occurred to me today, that, well, I remember April 15th, not only is it tax day, if you will, but it's also Jackie Robinson day. It's the day that the Major League Baseball celebrates Jackie Robinson. And by now you should know who that is. But if you don't know, you will now know. He broke the color barrier, as baseball likes to call it. That is, that he was the first African American to play in the major league. So I've got a video that I don't change my camera that I will show that I got from, I think it's pretty cool. Way more than I could describe it. I could, but well, we've, in the past we've done this where I brought on guests, but with Walter taking up that much time, I would like to have one guest on. So here is Jackie Robinson video.
On April 15th, MLB celebrates and honors Jackie Robinson, a true pioneer.
He's a credit to baseball and to America.
In 1947, he shattered the color barrier, becoming the first African American to play in Major League Baseball. His on-field talent made him a first-ballot Hall of Famer, but his courage and perseverance made him a legend. Alongside his wife, Rachel, they relentlessly fought for equality and representation. In his honor, Rachel established the Jackie Robinson Foundation, focused on empowering communities through education. By providing scholarships, mentorship, and leadership programs, the foundation continues to open doors of opportunity, changing lives and shaping futures.
These young people that we're supporting will carry on the legacy with hope and with spirit.
We are Jackie Robinson. Today, we remember Jackie's on-field greatness and honor his enduring legacy.
I'm sure that in the immediate future, things are going to improve a great deal.
His vision lives on in the hearts of millions and continues to spark change worldwide.
And there you go. Just an amazing tribute there to Jackie Robinson. It's a really good job of that in terms of hold on one second. We'll shut this down. And that's just, talking about Jackie Robinson and what he did and the changes that he made. And I just, I was going to let that play a little bit, but I wanted just to keep I thought, how she narrated it. Because the reason is, if you go back, or if you just, look back at his career, yes, he broke the color barrier and he had humility and what have you, but he also took it forward. That is, he stood up for civil rights, but it was about to make a change. It was in terms of, let's make a change, a sustaining legacy. And that's what, for me, makes him separate or up there in that echelon of people that not only are you going to fight change, but you're going to build something and move it forward. Now, look, we know what is going on in the climate right now, and they actually took, let's just say, some people in the armed services took out his military record under the auspices of the eradication of the DEI. And, look, you can take certain things. Yes, I think history is important and it's there and we need it to be written down, but you could take it away from the page, but legacy continues. And we see that with the Native American and all the way that history was rewritten and everything else. But you know what? It's now coming back again, and people realize we stand on, on Duwamish. Well, where am I? Yes. Out here in the Duwamish where I'm at. And so they were here, Native Americans and people like that. And wherever we go, it's always very incredible for us to pay homage. And you know what? You could try all you want. You can rewrite the books, but history in terms of the real history will always prevail, because thank goodness of the oratory and the passing by and of legacy by people. So there you go. And one thing about that, I don't know if people know about Jackie Robinson. He was the first athlete to win varsity letters at UCLA in baseball, basketball, football, and track and field. So his athletic powers is just unrivaled. All right. And so the Storm, I must get to the Storm. So the Storm had the overall second pick last night in the WNBA draft, and they picked up, try to do this again, and they picked up Dominique. And she is Dominique. Yes, she is. They picked her up from France, second pick overall, and Dominique Malunga. And she is played for the France national team and played in France, 19 years old. But she's also from Cameroon. And speaking of history, France has this kind of weird, I wonder if it'll change soon, but with the African players in any sport, Cameroon can play for their French citizenship. So that's why you see a lot of black French players in soccer, basketball, and whatnot that come from African countries because of and I don't know the complete legality of it or how it's made up, but that's the agreement that they have. So, yeah, and she's the first. I'll see if I can get this. She's the first one to dunk. And let me see. I've got this Instagram, and let's see if we can do it. Yeah, we'll have to go back a little bit. So here she is. All right, there you go. That she's 6'6", and there's a lot being said about she's young, but she played with Gabby Williams last year in the French Olympics on the France Olympic team, and which was the French Olympics in Paris, and they won the silver medal. So I think that's good for onboarding, that there's a teammate that she can relate to, but the sky's the limit for her. And that is that 19, as I said, she was voted year. She has a jumper. She can play defense. And this bodes well for, I think, the Storm, because if you look at the Storm roster, they've got Ezzy coming back. They've got Neko Gumike. Skylar Diggins, and I would think that that's a great cornerstone of your team. And things are going to change quite a bit in the WNBA next year, but you've got a veteran team here that you feel can make a run. And in terms of the WNBA championship, can they beat the Aces where Drew Lloyd is? I don't know. Can they beat the Liberty or actually the Connecticut? I don't know. But, they're in that conversation. And I should point out that in addition, the Storm also drafted Madison Connor, a guard, and also Serena Sandell. And if you're saying, well, Sandell sounds a little familiar in the Seattle sports, yeah, her brother Jalen Sandell plays center for the Seahawks. And just going back to the roster here, yeah, I think with NECA, Skylar Diggins, Gabby Williams, Ezzy, and I would say Lexi Brown. Now, remember, Jordan Horston is out for the year. So you might, Malanga could start, right? I mean, Noel Quinn could have a starting front line of Williams, Ezzy, and also Malanga. And then you would come in with then Agumike. What are you going to do with it? Yeah, there you go. I would put Neka's probably going to start and Malunga will come off the bench, but we'll wait and see. Or Gabby Williams. Interesting. So there you go. That's going to be a storyline in camp in terms of the Storm training camp here. What then does that look like? That is the starters. And if you the Storm's first game is what, a little over a month from now. May 4th is the opener, 3 p.m. So get your tickets now if you have not already. And training camp will start, I think, in a couple weeks. They haven't sent us anything yet in terms of when all of that. I should really just have to let you know. But it's the WNBA training camp should start here in a couple of weeks for the upcoming season, and that's when it'll go. And then also in terms of what else is going on, give the Mariners. Actually, April 27th is when the training camp. So they start with 12 days. We'll start, and then when we'll be able to give you more Storm news, and we'll go to a couple practices. And again, I said go back, give the credit to your Seattle Mariners. Why do you say that? Because they're coming off a sweep of, the Texas Rangers. It's something that the Mariners haven't done a lot. And so they're on the road right now. And then an 11-day, 9-game road trip with the first 3 games against the Cincinnati Reds. And that is tonight, 6:40. And on the mound, you've got Luis Castillo, 1-1 against Nick Lodo. And, I get it. The Mariners are 8-8, but here's a team that, the story had been, hey, they didn't make any changes in the offseason. And, and the Mariners front office, Dan Wilson, was saying, I like our team. And that happens sometimes with teams. With, you keep that nucleus. You don't make a lot of changes if you feel that you're close. I get it. It's early days to start thinking about the Mariners winning the division or any of that stuff. Woo-wee. Yeah, no. You're not going to have me say anything like that. But you've got to be impressed with how they came out right now out of the gates. The sweeping, the Rangers. I mean, that's a very, very that's impressive just in terms of them riding that ship, because it looked like they were you didn't know where they were going right now, right? You really weren't sure exactly what the Mariners and what they were doing, but to come back as they did, I think it really shows that this team they've got a chance. And I think in terms of the pitching will always be there for them. The question has always been about the hitting. It's always is about the hitting. And what you're seeing right now, Cal Raleigh's the only one that's really hitting at a good pace here. But and Julio looks like he's ready. And so can they continue? That's the key. Can they continue to manufacture the runs that they need to do? And that is just, so right now, your Mariners are, let me just look. Yeah, they're hitting they score most of their runs. They scored them in the 8th and the 7th. They actually scored 11 runs in the 7th inning. So, they're on this 4-game win streak. And 8-8, I like what they're doing hitting. I don't know if they can keep it up, and we'll just have to wait and see. And that's going to be the key. Can the Mariners continue? And as I said, they swept the Texas Rangers. Again, they also got 2 out of 3 from the Houston Astros. So these are the teams that you needed to beat. These are the teams in your division, in your yeah. And so they've done that. And so I said, they were off yesterday, and today they've got 3 games Cincinnati, then they go 3 in Toronto, then they're off, 3 Boston, then Miami, then they're off, and then they are at the Angels, and they're off, then they're at Texas again, and then the A's, and they come back. They'll be back here May 9th. That's how long of a streak this is here. And we'll just have to wait and see. That's a long road trip, but if they can overcome that, there you go. All right, what else? There you go. Thank you, D Money. I didn't even so yeah, like I said, the 8-8, they're in the running, they're in the conversation. You just can't go, you can't get too far behind, because that was always a discussion we talked about, is that you don't want to be out of it early, right? All right, so there's your Mariner update, and let me see what else. Talked about the Storm. The Sounders won. They finally scored, snapped a 4-game win streak, and I mean they had 2 ties in there, but they had 2 losses. What I liked about the Sounders 1-0 win over FC Dallas was just that it was a solid win. Pedro de la Vega started, and Jordan Morris had an injury setback. He was supposed to start, but during warmups he kind of tweaked something, which bodes well in the fact that Brian Smetzer and his team are able, and his staff are able to hold back Morris and then still have him and still win. And they've got, the next game coming up here is they will play. They're here on Saturday, and that's another must-win game. But again, what was impressive about Seattle's win was the fact that they'll play Nashville on Saturday, Lumen Field. What was impressive, the Sounders scored early, and then they made the right decisions. They played good soccer, that is, on defense. They stayed compact. They had a couple chances to score there. And then on offense, they're expensive. Yeah, expensive. It's a word that's said in soccer, and what that means is that you're pushing forward. Your passes are forward. And I liked their attack mode. Normally with the Sounders, they'll score a goal, and then they'll hunker back in their shell. They did not. So this was a solid win, and you get your shutout. And everybody's starting to come back, some of the injured players. So Ryan Kent, newly signed wingback, will be ready to play on Saturday. I'll be at practice this week. So we'll tell you next week what that looks like. And as I said, Jordan Morris is coming back. Pedro de la Vega is back. So the question now, the 2 injured player with Alex Roldan, he was injured in the last game, as was Albert Rusnak. Both of those players suffered injuries in the team's last 2 games ago, and Brian Smetzer said that they would be back in a couple of weeks here so that they could feature on Saturday against Nashville. I doubt they will, because he can afford to sit them out, and you don't want to rush players. They Sounders still have like 32 games left here in the season. So, it'd be nice to get another win there. Right now, the Sounders are they're 2-3-3, 2 wins, 3 draws, and 3 losses. So what you need to do now is you need to gain some momentum. You're 11th place in the conference. So quick look at Nashville. Remember, Nashville's in the Eastern Conference, and they're they're 4 wins. 1 draw and 3 losses. So there you go. You've got a chance here. So, all right. Time is up, I am told. Clean Greens Living is next. And I do want to hit back that Earth Deserves More Than a Day. Earth Deserves More Than a Day returns to Rain Avenue Radio next week from Monday to Friday, again, featuring environmental justice themed broadcast daily from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tune in and just, learn, live, and see what you can do to help the environment. And I think this is just something wonderful that our station does. All right. Again, Clean Greens is next. I'm Masvita Mara. Thank you all for listening, for tuning in, and whatever apps you used. And again, thanks to Walter Jones and D Money. Thanks again. We out of here.